On this episode of wari-Q, we discuss how do you go about convincing your family of what you want to do in life. I am sure all of you at some point of time have had problems and conflicts with your family. It could be with your parents, it could be with your brothers, it could be with anyone, even a close relative. But it's unbelievable how important a role family plays in our life, and it is equally shocking at how often we are in direct conflict with them. You should become this person. You should not marry people from this community or caste. You should not do this or it will bring shame to our family. You should not be thinking about this. You should not be going here. You should not be doing this. It's insane how many family rituals, rules, regulations have been built over years, over generations. Not just our parents, but our parents' parents and their parents' parents just taught them how to think, behave, operate, conduct themselves in a certain manner. And all that they've been doing is just passing that along generation by generation by generation. And it is unbelievable how many people write in with that same query. Just the other day, I had someone writing in saying, I'm a Brahmin, I married someone from a lower caste, and my mom's super pissed about this. And she keeps blaming my husband. She keeps taunting him that he's taken her daughter away. She's rude to him. She insults him. I love my husband, but I love my mom, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm torn between the two. And that's just one example of so many. I didn't want to become an engineer, but my parents forced me to. I want to leave my job, but my parents think that this is a stable thing to do. I want to go to a new city, live on my own, but my parents think it's not safe. I want to do this, but my parents are telling me this is not what I should be doing, thinking, behaving like. And it is unbelievable how many people want to get out of this. So what I wanted to do in this video is essentially share what I think are 5 ways in which you can come around convincing your family. It's not going to be overnight. This is not something that I will tell you, you go back, execute, and tomorrow you have a happy family. It will take time. But I can guarantee you this, if you don't start, it will never happen. The last thing you want is to live a life where you're running against your family. The last thing you want to do is live a life where you're constantly in conflict with the ones that you love the most or would want to care for. The last thing you want to do is to feel guilty about living your life the way you should be living or the way you deserve to live. So these are my 5 tips on how you can come around this. But before that, always bear in mind that when people say we're like this only, they're coming in from a point of ignorance. If they can't explain why they're feeling the way they're feeling, they are coming from a point of ignorance. If someone says, don't question, don't ask, don't come back and answer back, this is just the way it is, keh diya to keh diya, this is all that is, all said and done, we're not having a discussion on this anymore, they're coming in from a point of ignorance. They themselves don't know what is it that makes them say this. They themselves don't know what is it that has got them to this point. And it's most likely the fact that they themselves were subjected to the same rules and regulations as you are being. And all that they know is know nothing better. They just are repeating, echoing the same construct, the same upbringing, the same experiences that they had as a child. And now, because they don't know any better as a parent, they're doing the same thing to you. And with that premise, with that understanding, you don't want to live a life of conflict. You don't want to live a life of just constant debate and stress and anxiety to not having it worked out with your family. You choose to work on it. Number 1, whenever parents say something that you feel is unreasonable, always step back and ask yourself, are they always being unreasonable? Or is there reason behind some things that they do say? Because here's what I find most of us saying. My parents don't get me. My parents don't understand. My parents are orthodox. My parents are old-fashioned. My parents are traditional. But that's just such a sweeping statement that you're coloring your parents and their identity with just one definition, one adjective. And that's definitely not the case. That's not who they are. They are people of reason. And yes, it's quite often and quite likely that they're also people of no reason. But it's very important for you to dissociate when do they act with reason and when do they not act with reason. It's very important for you to know that this is when they are unreasonable, but there are times when they make sense. There are times when they do say something that I find myself agreeing to, but because I call them unreasonable, not understanding, traditional, I don't accept any of what they say. Because if you're going to operate like that, you're not going to bring about a change in their entire identity. That's not going to happen. You're not going to change who they are. You won't change who they are, so why do you expect anyone else to change? Your task is not to change who they are. Your task is to pick up on those small things that you have a conflict on, that you don't see eye to eye on, and fix that. While there may be a lot of things that they say which are true. Save money, invest in it. That's the right thing to do. Don't watch too much of television. Don't sleep late at nights. Don't wake up late in the mornings. Those are the right things to do. But if you suddenly feel that your parents are unreasonable, you're never going to have any of this accepted with the right feeling. You're going to dismiss everything that they say, irrespective of whether it's right or wrong. So the first thing, recognize what they say is right and recognize what they say is unreasonable and act accordingly. If what they say is right, listen to it, absorb it, adapt yourself to that. There's no harm. They have more experience. Listen with an open mind. But if what they're saying is unreasonable, that's the only thing you need to focus on. Which brings me to the second point. Whenever you find yourself in a spot where your parents are saying something which you feel is unreasonable, does not have a basis, notice when they say it. Notice what triggers that unreasonableness. Unreasonableness? I don't know if that's even a word. Notice when they say something that's unreasonable. Because there will be a pattern. What you have to find is a trend. What you have to find is what provokes them. What is it that you do that triggers them? What is it that makes them say those things that have no reason, that have no merit, that have no basis, that have no grounding for even being said, but they just say it because they've been saying it over and over again and they believe it to be true. But it's important for you to find what triggers it. It could be an action of yours. It could be something you say. It could be something that you do. It could be something that you don't even recognize that you do or say, but provokes them. It could be them seeing someone else in a capacity that provokes them. It could be them reading something else that provokes them. But whatever is it, always find what is it that triggers them. I remember in my case, my parents were always like, you need to have a steady job. And that's not unreasonable coming in from them, but it did get unreasonable when I wanted to explore a different side, when I wanted to explore a different dimension of my life, when I wanted to go out and maybe not have a steady job, but try something on an entrepreneurial stint. And every time they used to hear about someone doing really well professionally, someone doing really well despite not being a founder, someone, let's say an Indian who has made it to the CEO of a top MNC, let's say an Indian who's made it to a top American company, maybe someone that we know who's gone on to do really good things in a really large company, and they'd be like, if they could do it and they are happy, they are doing what they want to do, Why do you not see that? Because for them, that was validation that this is also possible. And I'm not doubting that that was, but when it came to me, it was just unreasonable because that wasn't the only way it was possible. There are several ways that you can get to that point, but they didn't see it. And I always ask myself, why don't they see it? Why don't they see it the way that I do? Which then brings me to the third thing. You have to, whenever they say something unreasonable, understand or try to understand where are they coming from. Where are they coming from? What biases, what experiences have they gone through or they have that gets them to think or react this way? I know that for my family. I know that my dad, he made some not so good choices in his professional life. And he suffered because of that. He suffered because he had a steady job in a really good pharma company. He gave that all up for the lure of a bigger pay packet, but a really young company that was like a startup in that world. And that company shut down. And when that company shut down, he was out of job for 2 years. And we didn't have money. We actually didn't have money to even eat at times. And it was a really hard time for us. And he suffered for that. He continues to. He's never really got out of it. It's not that he recovered, went on to do something really big professionally. That one decision set him back for his entire life. And unfortunately, he saw the repercussions of his decision, not just on him, but also his entire family. The money or the absence of it, the way that we grew up, the way that we had nothing, no savings, nothing whatsoever. To go to the US, when I had to go for my PhD, he took a loan of 55,000 rupees for my one-way ticket. We didn't have money to pay for anything. I landed in the US with $300, all of which were gifts from my relatives in cash. There was no money that I had of my own or my family had for me. And that's where we were. So whenever he feels, and mom saw so much of that, right? Every mother, every lady in the house experiences and has to bear the repercussions of this professional decision made by her husband, especially if she's not working. And my mom was always a school teacher. She never really earned as much, but whatever little she did, she saved it. And that was the thing that helped us go through life in such uncertain times. So she saw through a lot of shit as well. And so did my dad. So whenever they say, get a steady income, get a steady job, don't give up on that for the excitement of what could lay ahead, they are essentially telling themselves that same thing. It's almost as if I hear my dad saying this not to me, but to himself. Don't do that, Ashok. Don't do that. It may look like very exciting. It may look like this is a step up, but you're giving something steady. Don't do that, Ashok. This may not bear well for you. And unfortunately, it didn't, and that's what's colored him. That's what's biased him. And that's true for most of our parents. Most of our parents in the generation that they were not making choices of, oh, should we travel abroad this summer or not? Should we go to Goa or should we go to Sri Lanka or should we go to someplace else? They were just bloody surviving. They were just like, do I have money for the next month? It's not about, should we send our kids to an international school or to this school or to that school? Or should we buy this car or that car? Should we go to this restaurant or that restaurant? Should we order from this place or that place? It was just about, do we have money to survive? That's it. That was just it. Making ends meet. So everything that they say, become an engineer, become a doctor, don't become an actor, don't become a singer, don't marry someone from this community, all of that is stemming in from their own experiences, their own life that taught them that some things work and some things don't. And they don't know any better. They can't rely on anything else. So the third thing is for you to deeply appreciate where they're coming from. Just deeply appreciate where is it they're coming from, because then the fourth thing is, whenever you find yourself hearing this from your parents, you now operate with empathy. You operate with a deep level of understanding. I recognize why they're saying what they're saying. I now know where they're coming from. I now understand what is it that they've gone through life in order for them to have said these things that said. Because it may seem like unreasonable to you in your context, but it could very well be reasonable for them in theirs. So whenever I find my parents saying, you should get a steady job, you should have an income, you should have something that ensures that the financial stability of the family is ensured, I get it. It doesn't anger me. I don't feel irritated like, God, I'm 40. I have like 2 kids. I'm an adult. I've been married for 15 years. I can take care of myself. I can make decisions for myself. Don't be like parents anymore. But no, I don't find myself saying that. I find myself instead saying, I get it. I get it. I get it that you've been at a spot where you suffered because of the decisions you took professionally, and we all suffered because of that, and you don't want that to happen. It's almost like I find myself, it's almost like my dad is saying those things to him and not to himself. And that makes me empathize, that makes me understand where they're coming from. And because I understand now, because I know possibly the reason why that is, the 5th thing makes it obvious. And that is, I now have to fix or solve for that simple thing. I have to solve for the why they say those things they say. Not the how and the what. I have to solve for the why. So if I find my parents now saying get a steady job and so on, it's because they don't want their family to go through the same financial instability that we went through. So what I have to say is not so much about, that's okay, I'll manage, don't worry about it. That's not how it should be. Let me take my choices. Let me make my life. Instead, it is, here's something that you possibly don't know. I have enough savings that will last for X months. And I have got myself to a point where I can get a job whenever I want. I've got myself to a point where I have jobs right now and I'm not accepting them because I want to do this. I definitely want to give it a shot. And if, unfortunately, push comes to shove, I don't succeed in it, I have a fallback. And I promise you, I'm being very responsible right now, and I will ensure that we all collectively do not suffer because of my decision. When you say these words, you have fixed for the one thing that triggered, provoked them, and was the reason why they said what they said. They are now comforted. It still means that whatever you said may or may not pan out. You may succeed, you may not succeed in your decision, but you wouldn't find them saying, I told you so. Instead, you will find them saying, I'm glad you gave it a shot. Welcome back. We're here to support you, now and forever. And these are the 5 things. These are the 5 ways that you go about winning your family on important life decisions. I go back to that wonderful sequence in 3 Idiots, the movie, the last scene where Farhan, who goes on to become a wildlife photographer, doesn't ever want to become an engineer, speaking to his dad and saying, Abba, मुझे शायद जिंदगी में वो सब नहीं मिलेगा जो मेरे दोस्तों को मिलेगा. मुझे शायद वो बंगला, वो गाड़ी, वो शान और शौकत नहीं मिलेंगी, लेकिन मैं खुश रहूँगा. मैं खुश रहूँगा अब्बा, और मैं चाहता हूँ कि मेरी खुशी में आप खुश रहें. मुझे ये करने दीजिए अब्बा, क्योंकि मैं खुश रहना चाहता हूँ. We don't have that conversation with our parents. We don't. We're always thinking that they are against us. We're always thinking that they don't mean good for us, that they don't get us, that they are traditional, that they are old age, that they are orthodox. When, if we go through this 5-step process, we will just realize they wanted the best, but they are colored by just their experience. And if we just paid attention to that, we would have a completely different relationship with our parents. We want our families to support us, not fight with us. And the last thing you want is to do that to your life. Until next week, I'll see you all. Bye. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that whenever we put up a new video, you're aware of it.